I look like?
Well, I thought that when I left my house, and then as soon as I thought that, like, hey, man, look at that. It started to rain on me again. So we'll see what happens. But, hey, always sunshine on the Blaine and Mickey show. 2 hours, 1 to 3, we're going to be hanging out with you today and can't wait to do it. The hitman, Blaine Bishop, is here. Mickey Ryan is here. Guess who else was at practice today? Taylor Lewan. Mike Vrabel said before practice that he expects to see Taylor Lewan at practice. Well, they're practicing now. So I got a feeling he knew that he was about to see him at practice. But
well, what does that mean, though?
He's going to see him.
When these coaches talk, it doesn't mean, oh, man, I just broke my pad. But anyway.
What's going on over there?
I just broke. Yeah, I know. I'm struggling. My phone was buzzing and everything else. Yeah, people always want to call me when I'm on air. And I'm like.
And it's people who know you probably. That know what you do and when you do it.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what's so funny. But, I always respond. And I never, but anyway. But, when coaches are talking about there at practice, he could be out there standing. Or he could be out there with the rehab people doing, warm-ups or sprints or testing his knee out. Or he could be doing partial of the reps. So at least, if he doesn't go on Sunday, that the backup could say, hey, I've done some reps this time. Because not too many times you think you're not going to get any reps, and then you do fairly decent in a game, which is what they did. So I think it's still good news that he is practicing. So that means the swelling or whatever got irritated that had him limping, up the ramp pregame has at least settled down enough where he can practice, which is kind of interesting, already, on Wednesday. Good sign.
The way he went down, and the video's out there. There's video. He and an assistant coach, they're just doing just some typical pregame type knee testing drills, and he just goes boom. And then there's a video of him walking off, and he was just walking so slow and limping.
You said it, though.
You could have told me anything at that point. Like, you could have said, I think he just tore it again. I probably would have believed you.
I was really concerned about that. It kept everything from me saying that because I didn't want to change. Right. I was like, whoa, the way he's walking is not good. I mean, in that drill it didn't seem like it was something really strenuous on the knee. Obviously, it was. He just hit the guy's arm pad, and then he fell. It's like, wow. Oh, man. So hopefully on grass helps out. Whenever you're playing ACL, I really feel like it helped me. I never had an ACL tear. Watched a lot of people rehab, had a meniscus, 3 surgeries scoped on my knee. I really feel like I initially hurt my knee playing on turf. Yeah. And when we got to Tennessee, then almost everything was on grass. And that really made a difference to my knees throughout the rest of my career. Yeah, it really did.
You've talked about that on the pregame show. We've talked about it on our shows before. It's come up. Let me ask you this, because there are going to be a bunch of Oilers here to celebrate Bum Phillips this weekend. How bad was the turf in the Astrodome? Was it basically like a thin sheet of plastic over concrete?
Let me just say this. It was just like the concrete there I'm parked my car at out there. That it was how it was, with a little layer of some thin turf.
AstroTurf. Yeah.
That's pretty much how it was. It was like Euro concrete. Yeah, that side felt too.
What was the worst?
I feel for those guys that played on it.
Oh, my gosh, yeah. They played on a parking lot.
Yeah.
Was it the worst field that you played on? And I asked that because
no, Philadelphia.
The old Vet Stadium, people always said was unbelievably terrible.
It was worse. It was the worst.
Okay.
I in your mind, at that time, this is early in my career, you're thinking it wasn't that the Oilers turf was bad, not until like in your mind 3 years in when you're learning about all the other turfs and you say, it's probably fifth, worst. There was other fields that were just as bad. Yeah. Because at that time, everybody was using the same kind of turf, really.
Right.
Just some had ripples and wrinkles in it, and the Vet was that way. I mean, you could actually see them. And it didn't help, though, that they had a jail at the bottom of the stadium, too. You always, when you all hear these noise and everything, like, who's down there? So, I mean, no one was thinking that until the year we're moving. And then I think they kind of just laxed up on how much they were, taking care and putting it down appropriately, how they put the turf down. Yeah.
Do you think, because you played in an era you played literally in an era where you played on terrible turf and other stadiums too, as you pointed out. Then you come here on grass. Let's just say you only ever played for the Titans and all your home games were on a grass field. How much you think that would have benefited just your overall football health, your knees, your joints, playing on a grass and dirt field at least 8 times a season, as opposed to playing all those games on a parking lot with some turf.
Well, actually, you probably played about 10 games on grass because it wasn't like every field had turf once we moved here.
Right.
So it was like, oh, man. So I would say probably 12 games were on grass. I think I would feel a lot better. I don't think I would have had, a couple scopes. And that leads to, maybe back or other injuries for some other guys.
Yeah.
But for me, it was just really just the knee. And it was, more lateral meniscus. But I've seen guys stop, plant, boom, quad gone. Stop, plant, ACL gone. Patella tendon. I mean, the list was, almost like every game. Torn ligament in the foot. Like, dang, I planted on my foot, 50 times. Boom. Like, dang.
Yeah, that was I can remember going to St. Louis Cardinal games as a kid, not football.
I remember that.
But baseball games, and they just played on the same field, and there were little spots of dirt where the pitcher's mound was, and first, second, third base, and home. Everything else was a concrete slab with turf on top of it. A lot of people, like baseball teams, eventually all just said, "What are we doing?" and went back to grass fields.
Yeah. Well, I only played on one baseball field, but it was grass, and that was the 49ers at Candlestick. I didn't even like that because you go from grass to dirt, but it wasn't anything painful for my knees or ankles or anything like that. It was just the uncomfortable feeling of different surfaces.
Right.
It was really different. As a DB, you're always cautious of that. You're, backpedaling backwards. You have no idea. You're not thinking about, where's the dirt and the grass. You're just lining up playing ball. So I had to be conscious of that.
And Oakland typically had that too. Now, when the Raiders were playing in Oakland, I know they were nomadic and went to Los Angeles for a while, but the Oakland Coliseum, they shared that with the A's.
Yeah.
So that was the last stadium.
I never played there.
That was the last stadium had the combination dirt and grass. There's younger people listening to the show that have no idea what we're talking about. Mm-hmm. That a stadium had a baseball and a football team and shared it. But that was, kids, if you're listening, if you're in the car with your parents, that was a real thing.
Well, it's no different.
It
evolved. You got the different kind of turfs now. I mean, there's a lot of things that have changed. You got these stadiums. Everybody wants dome stadiums so they can bring a Super Bowl if you're going to build a new stadium. Field turf or whatever kind of turf that they're using now is the going rate now. And they say it's supposed to be better for your knees and joints and everything else. I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't been out there running around on it for 5 or 6 years. I have no idea. I did in Philly though. They had new turf there, so. At least for practice.
Right.
So they used it, and they were kind of so it felt better, but I don't know if it's healthier.
Arkansas State used to play games at South Alabama's home field was this place called Ladd Peebles Stadium, and it had the worst turf that I ever walked around on. There were drains in the turf, and the turf was so thin that there was just the top of the drain and the holes, like you could trip over it. The turf was all melted away. It had disintegrated around the drains, and that was where they played football down there.
Yeah. Well, what this leads to
was
is about, there's a lot of former Oilers are going to be here.
Yep.
And, we get to see we bring it up because there's going to probably be a lot of guys limping out to the field because of maybe knee replacement, torn ACLs, and the like. So, yeah, so it's going to be a really awesome time. To see former Oilers and Titans this weekend.
Titans, according to Jim Wyatt's Britches report, are going to wear the light blue jerseys with the dark blue pants this week. That's the report. I just wish this had been a year later, because if they had come out in the Oilers uniforms and then honored Bum Phillips and had Billy White shoes and Dan Pastorini and Elvin Bethea and all those guys, I would have lost my mind because uniforms and how I am. But they are going to wear the Columbia blue really jerseys. Cool,
though. That would have been.
Oh, my gosh.
To me, the NFL should always make exceptions to the rule. They can get it done. They did it 1 year. They just, they can wear it. Mm-hmm. Not the Titans, actually.
Oh, no. There's zero exceptions for the Titans. I'm sure if this was the Cowboys and they wanted to do something, they'd figure out a way to work that out. Not the Titans, though.
We need a year. No, you don't. No. I know there's a lot of strategic things. People, no, you don't know what you're talking about. Yeah, well, They had plenty of time. If you have 6 months, you got plenty of time. That's enough time. It's about that you didn't want to do that. Yeah.
Yeah, well, maybe next year they'll bust them back out. You can hit us up, Zone TV chat. Maybe you want to see the Oilers uniforms on the Titans. Maybe you don't. You can always hit us up there at Blaine and Mickey on Twitter. But again, this is a big weekend. Oilers homecoming weekend. A bunch of the Houston players are going to come up, and Bum Phillips will be honored. He had over a 600 winning percentage for this franchise in 6 years as head coach, and they'd been bad. And Bum Phillips took over and gave the organization a bunch of stability. If it hadn't been for the Steelers, the Oilers probably have a world championship because there was one team who was better than them. They just happened to be another AFC team in their division that they kept running up against in the playoffs, or no instant replay cost them a win too because, well, just Google it, kids, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But nice celebration of the Oilers this weekend. We'll certainly be talking about that all the way up until Sunday. When we come back, though, it is Florida week for the Tennessee Vols. Our buddy Ben McKee set to join us. He's with Volquest. He's with Swain Event, and he's with us next right here on Blaine and Mickey.
Yeah.
Stream every Titans game on the 104.5 The Zone app and at 1045thezone.com.
So For the who? Boy, Lucas.
Lucas, how did that happen? Like, did you hear it? I mean, like.
I don't know. I mean, that's all I listened to, like, in middle school was, like, classic rock. I don't know why. I mean, my dad was always playing, like, the Police. And
See, that's
U2.
what I'm saying. Was it your dad?
Yeah, it was my dad. But
No.
even my friends in, like, middle school were listening to Led Zeppelin and AC/DC and stuff, you know? That was, like, my first impressionable music growing up.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty good middle school you went to. Lucas, you want to give it a shout-out?
OLV. It's a Catholic middle school in Birmingham. I don't know if they had anything to do with it, but for whatever reason, that's what we listened to.
Lucas and the Nuns listening to Led Zeppelin. Ben McKee joins us now on the phone. Swain Event and Volquest. Ben, do you want to shout out your middle school or give us any music preferences before we get started?
Yeah. What's your style?
Man, I traveled so much growing up that we'd be here all day if I had to shout out all the schools that I went to, including middle schools.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, my son asked me, where did you go to middle school? I said, I went to Harrisburg Middle School. He goes, well, how many were there in your town? I said, only one. He said, it was named after the town. I said, yeah, that's the way they do it when it's the only one in town.
Wow.
So shout out to the Harrisburg Junior Hornets. Ben McKee,
I went to a school that had a number.
well, there you go.
94.
Well, he was school number 94. So the Vols might have been able to score 94 if they wanted to against Tennessee Tech. What did you like and not like in that game? I know there's a lot to like, but did anything come out and you're like, that's a little sketchy?
Well, I'll start with the positives. I like the lack of penalties after all of the penalties that Tennessee committed against Pittsburgh, cut those down pretty significantly. And the big thing was they weren't necessarily self-inflicted penalties with personal fouls and those nature type of penalties. They're more so just kind of in the flow of just playing football. And I thought that was a big step in the right direction. So I like that Tennessee cut down on penalties. That is obviously something Tennessee is going to have to make sure that they do a good job of this weekend in Gainesville is staying penalty free, I guess. And then the turnovers, finally getting their hands on some footballs. The defense, that is, had not forced a turnover through the first two games, and then they come out and pick off 4 passes. So the fact that Tennessee was able to create some turnovers was a good sign. And I wasn't that worried about it, to be honest with you, just because I felt like Tennessee was in good position the first 2 games to create some turnovers. They just weren't able to carry out the play or finish the play and haul in the football. So it was good to see them finally generate some turnovers, because that's another thing that they're going to have to do this weekend if they want to pull off an upset. So turnovers and penalties, I thought Tennessee took a step in the right direction there. What I didn't like was that Tennessee's offensive line did not bully Tennessee Tech. I did not think that Tennessee's offensive line played all that well, and part of that is that they are banged up. There's a lack of depth situation going on there, and you were already battling depth coming into the season. You lose Cooper Mays 2 series into the season, and then by the time Tennessee Tech rolls around, Kingston Harris gets banged up early on. Cade Mays, after he destroyed some poor kid on the sideline after the fumble return, he gets banged up and has to lead the game. So there's 3 guys out of your starting offensive line that's not in the game for a good chunk against Tennessee Tech. So maybe that was the case. Maybe they were just simply playing down to competition. But I didn't like that Tennessee's offensive line did not just dominate in the trenches.
Ben McKee starting off with some good info there. He's at Ben McKee 14, Swain Event, and Volquest.com. He's a hardworking dude.
Well, I mean, yeah, I completely agree with that. The offensive line was disappointing against Tennessee Tech. But moving forward, what do you think are going to be the keys to actually having a shot at beating Florida after watching them really, to me, taking Bama to the woodshed like no other team has done in a long, long time, and that's running the football?
I was surprised by how well Florida played. I was not very high on Florida whatsoever going into the game, because this isn't the Florida team that I've grown up watching in terms of having those elite pass rushers, those elite corners, elite receivers, and poor quarterback play mixed in. So this Florida team does not have those elite playmakers that we have become used to, but they showed up and played extremely well on Saturday against Alabama. Like I said, I was very surprised by their performance. I thought Alabama was going to run away with it in the game, and I think you saw some immaturity from Alabama when it did get up big early on and took their their foot off the gas and got too comfortable. And when you do that in football, you're just asking for trouble. And Florida nearly came back and handed them an L because of it. But Tennessee's going to have to find a way to contain the run. I don't know that you can stop the run. Florida's rushing offense is legit. But if Tennessee can just do enough to where it's just not truly dominant and give the offense enough opportunities to hit on some big plays and connect on some deep balls that they haven't been able to connect on so far, I think Tennessee absolutely has a chance to win this game. But I'm also just kind of hitting on the note that I'm not ready to buy into Florida just yet. They played well against Alabama. There's no debating that, and you deserve a lot of credit if you do so. But that was the best game Emory Jones has ever played. That was the best game that offensive line has ever played. And there's some other players on defense that played the best game of their career. Brenton Cox on the edge.
Yes.
So can those Florida players follow it up with another solid performance? I'll be curious to see if they revert back to their old ways, and if Tennessee can pressure Emory Jones into some bad turnovers, which he is prone to do throughout his career, and find a way to slow down the run just a little bit and hit on those deep balls that they haven't been able to, then I do think that they have a chance to win. It may not be a great chance, but, hey, there's a chance.
Oh, no question about it. They have a shot. We're on with Ben McKee with Swain Event and VolQuest.com. And we have to talk about, the quarterback. And I know we were talking about the quarterback at UT ad nauseum, but who do you think will actually be out there? Or do you think we'll see both the, Hooker as well as Milton in this game? And who do you think is the better quarterback thus far to this point if both are healthy, which Hooker is?
I would roll with Hendon Hooker. I think he gives the offense the best opportunity right now to put together some drives and the best opportunity to just go out there and make plays. I think Joe Milton has all the potential in the world. He has more potential than Hendon Hooker does, but it's just not clicking for him. And I don't know that it's the best idea to continue to roll him out there, and although he has great arm talent, continue to try to fit a square peg into a round hole, because that's what it feels like is the case with these deep balls. It's just the same old. Every single time he drops back, and I realize it's right now a 2-game sample size, or a game and a half really, because he left Pitt early and didn't play last week, but he threw enough deep balls in those 2 games to where I think the writing is on the wall with Joe Milton. So maybe you do use a 2-quarterback system. I'm personally not a huge fan of 2-quarterback systems, because I think it throws off the rhythm of the offense. And I get the idea of trying to get Joe Milton's legs into the game, but I think Hendon Hooker's better running the football. So I don't know how effective that would be unless it's a short yardage situation. So the turnovers with Hendon Hooker are worrisome, but I think he gives Tennessee the best opportunity to move the football up and down the field. And although he may not have the arm talent that a Joe Milton has, he's a veteran. He's played in road games before when he was at Virginia Tech and performed fairly well in them. So I think he gives Tennessee the best chance to operate the offense, and behind that offensive line that I talked about, make some plays and cover up some deficiencies.
Now, these are your thoughts, but what do you think Coach Heupel thinks who should start if they're both healthy?
If they're both healthy, I think Tennessee rolls with Joe Milton one more time. I think they give Joe Milton one more opportunity, just because, again, his arm talent is legitimate. He has ridiculous arm strength, as everybody has seen. And I don't know that you can find 10 NFL quarterbacks that can throw the ball further, harder than he can. But that's not the name of the game, right? The best quarterbacks are the ones that throw with anticipation and can throw guys open and read defenses extremely well, and can put the ball where it needs to be. And I think Joe lacks that right now. So I do think that Tennessee would maybe give Milton a third opportunity because of that arm talent. And to Joe Milton's credit, he's only played in 2 games at Tennessee, and he's only been through 30 practices at Tennessee after being at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. So maybe this is just some early career blues at Tennessee for Joe Milton, and maybe he can iron out these kinks. Tennessee's staff seems to think that he can still iron out the kinks to his game. So it would not surprise me at all if Tennessee gave him one more opportunity to show his potential and tap into that potential.
Everyone with Ben McKee of Swain Event and VolQuest.com.
Ben, when you look at the Florida offense, you mentioned earlier Jones playing maybe the best game he played. Which one of those guys concerns you the most?
Anthony Richardson, just the dynamic redshirt freshman who Dan Mullen appears to think he'll be ready to go on Saturday. He concerns me the most, just because with Florida's rushing attack, there's not one guy that just dominates the game like a Tank Bigsby for Auburn. That's not how Florida's running game is so successful. They have three major ball carriers back from last year: Damian Pierce, Malik Davis, Naquan Wright, and they're just all really interchangeable, and they all do something a little bit different. And they're veterans, especially Malik Davis and Damian Pierce. So there's not one guy that scares me within the rushing attack that Florida has. It's more so a group effort. But Anthony Richardson, the young quarterback that Florida fans have been clamoring for, he's special, and he has that it factor. And if you go watch his film from the USF game, and Dan Mullen talked about it post game, is he does so many things wrong mentally just because he's so young, but his talent just makes up for it, where he'll go through the wrong progressions, or he won't slide the protection the right way, something like that. But then because he is so talented, his legs and his freakish athletic ability will make up for it. So it's the legs of Anthony Richardson and being able to contain him. And I think Emory Jones falls into that category as well. I would not be scared at all of Emory Jones's arm if I'm Tennessee. I would completely sell out to stop the run, and if Emory Jones beats you through the air, then so be it, because he's never really done that in his career. So being able to contain the legs of Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson, I think is the thing that would worry me most if I'm Tennessee's coaches, just because you saw Kenny Pickett of Pittsburgh be able to get out of the pocket, extend drives with a first down on a third and medium or a third and long. He was able to do that a couple of different times. You can't allow Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson to do that. So honestly, there's not one guy that really worries me, but the legs of Emory Jones and Anthony Richardson at the quarterback position and being able to contain them, I think is at the top of my to-do list this game, just because you don't want to add that element of the rushing attack along with the good backs that they already have.
Ben McKee, our guest. It's interesting. Yesterday, Ben, we had Mark Long on. He's the AP reporter who covers the Gators, and he said he felt like Mullen learned his lesson way back in the Chris Leak days of just play the scheme that you have based on the personnel that you have. And he said Florida was the number one passing offense in the nation last year, and they're the number two rushing attack in the nation right now. And he said he gave credit to Dan Mullen from learning from past mistakes and just saying, okay, we can run it, so that's what we're going to do this year.
That's why Dan Mullen's so great, right? That's why he is one of the best coaches in college football, and why there's been some rumors, some talk behind the scenes of him potentially jumping to the NFL, because his system is so great. And what makes great coaches great are the ones that are able to not try to fit a square peg into a round hole, and really scheme up the offense, game plan the offense around what they do best. And this is not a Florida team that has any receivers that are going to be top draft picks in the NFL. Jacob Copeland's their best receiver, their wide receiver number one, but he's been very inconsistent throughout his career, and based off of being a high-level 4-star or a 5-star coming out of high school, he really hasn't met those expectations. So Florida lacks the playmakers on the perimeter that we are used to, and so it's had to be an offense that rushes the football well, with a veteran offensive line coming back, top 3 backs from last year coming back, along with some 5-star transfers from Clemson and Miami. Emory Jones, what does he do best? Well, he's best when he's able to make plays with his legs. Right now, Anthony Richardson, he is the same way. He's best when the ball is in his hands and he can make plays with his legs. So that's what makes Dan Mullen great, right, is that he's able to fit his offense around what it does best, and that's definitely not throwing the football.
Ben McKee telling us what Dan Mullen does great. Ben does a great job with Swain Event and Volquest and being a guest here on Blaine and Mickey.
Oh, yes, he does, Ben. Thanks for coming on. I have to ask you, I know a lot of people are big, Harrison Bailey, they get into the recruiting and the rankings and everything else. I thought it was, interesting that he didn't get to play until, the fourth quarter, but the way the game was going, and maybe the coach wanted to see Hooker a little bit more in different situations. But what was your evaluation of Harrison Bailey thus far to this point in Heupel's offense?
Yeah, very telling that Harrison doesn't really come in until the last drive of the third quarter, which I think was with 30 seconds to a minute left in the third quarter, and then he got the fourth quarter. A little surprising just because it being Tennessee Tech, and I thought that they would try to get him a little more playing time with Joe Milton being out. But again, I think it's very telling and tells us all we need to know about kind of what the coaching staff thinks of Harrison Bailey right now. It wasn't anything to brag about, I guess, his performance on Saturday. I did not think it was overly impressive. He didn't do anything that made me say, wow. I guess the one play that sticks out is, I think it was the 4th and 7 play where Tennessee's offensive front did absolutely nothing to pick up the blitz and left Harrison Bailey on an island, and he was able to make a play with his legs and pick up the first down. That was a great play by him. And then on the touchdown, everybody in the stadium didn't think that Harrison Bailey was going to keep the football in that situation, but he did, and he was wide open to scamper home for the touchdown. So those were 2 good plays, but outside of that, he didn't look all that great throwing the football. In my opinion, had 2 deep shots that he was incomplete on both. On one, Ramel Keaton had to dive for, and that was called. There was a penalty on the play, so it doesn't count against them on the stat sheet. But it was a little bit of an overthrow, and then he came back and overthrew Ramel Keaton again, and then he just missed some really simple throws where he overthrew a guy and threw one in the dirt. So I wasn't overly impressed, to be quite honest, and I think you saw on Saturday why he is significantly behind Joe Milton and Hendon Hooker.
No question. We're on with Ben McKee of Swain Event and Volquest.com, and I was interested in what your thoughts were on with them playing in the swamp and the noise. If the crowd gets into it, how this could potentially affect the offense, especially if they start going 3 and out all the time, and then it leads over to affecting the defense.
I think the great news is that you get Cooper Mays back, or at least it's looking like you're going to get Cooper Mays back, and he's the genuine linchpin to the offensive line up front. Jerome Carvin's done a solid job filling in for Cooper Mays since Cooper went out of the game week 1 against Bowling Green, but Cooper is the guy on offense kind of setting the tone for the tempo and the communication up front. He's a big help to whoever is at quarterback, and he obviously has not been in there. It's looking like he'll be good to go on Saturday. Looks like he'll be back in action against the Gators. I think that will go a long ways towards helping navigate the crowd noise and not let it affect the offense too much. Just his ability to communicate and just being able to, at minimum, be in the right spot every single time. That's the one thing you don't have to worry about with Cooper Mays. I think he brings a calm presence to the field. And then I think also whichever quarterback is behind center will also play into that. I don't think Hendon Hooker would get rattled by the crowd noise. Maybe I'm wrong, but he's a veteran. And Josh Heupel last week raved about how Hendon Hooker prepares like a veteran. So I would be surprised if the crowd noise rattled him. But there are some other guys on this offense that will be playing in the swamp for the first time, playing in their first true SEC road game with a crowd. and that is a concern. But I think Tennessee has some veteran pieces at key positions that will help that not affect the offense in a negative way. I don't know how Joe Milton will respond. Honestly, we just haven't really seen enough from him, even going back to Michigan, playing in a COVID season last year. So I don't think that it would rattle Joe, because Joe has been playing college football for a couple of years, but you just never know until guys are thrown into that situation. And if you're Tennessee, obviously you hope that Tennessee can sustain some drives, because you're going to want to find your defense some rest here and there going up against a Florida rushing attack that is just going to try to run it down their throat all game long.
Ben McKee, hey, we got like 30 seconds left. We're a little bit over, but I wanted to ask you this. What is targeting in college football? Does anybody actually know?
No, it's egregious, and we need to change it to where these kids aren't getting ejected. They work too hard all year long to get ejected from a game.
Man, you nailed that one. Very concise. Ben, hey, man, we always love catching up with you at Ben McKee 14. People can listen to you with Swain on the Swain event and read your work at Volquest. Thank you, man. Appreciate the time as always.
Thank you, Ben.
I always appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Ben McKee's always a great guest. When we come back, I got some Dane Cruikshank numbers I want to share with Blaine. I want to talk safeties with the king of the Titans safeties, the Hitman. Next, Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Coming up tomorrow morning.
Thursday, we are that much closer to the weekend.
Jay, it will be First Friday.
I don't care what it will be as long as the rain stops.
Coach Mac, Dave McGinnis of Titans Radio will join us.
And so will Steve Palabozo, Steve Palanono, Steve Pala whatever. No, it's Steve Palazzolo of Pro Football Focus.
Those guys still don't know how to grade offensive linemen.
J. Mart and Ramon, tomorrow morning from 6 to 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
a punishment there for you, man.
Saturday in the Park. I mean, that's a top. I don't care by what metric you measure. That's got to be a top 3 Chicago song.
Yeah.
And no matter what metric you're going by. And Dane Cruikshank metrics, and I want to talk to a safety about this. John Glennon, we referenced this yesterday. He had one of the most epic, like, stat dump tweet threads that I've ever seen.
We had a whole bunch of them. Which one are you referencing?
It was amazing. So, John Glennon, if you're listening, salute to you, my friend, in any language. Lucas could salute you in Italian. Yeah, just an amazing stat dump earlier this week on Twitter. John comes on with us, comes on other shows on the station. Fantastic Titans reporter. One of the things he tweeted was Dayton Cruikshank played 36 snaps. It was a career high. Right. And I thought, because we've talked about him, so I'm like, he never plays defense. So I looked.
No. Yeah, he never played defense, but he also missed a lot of games and he wasn't available.
And Mike Vrabel actually talked about that today. He said, he hasn't been available. Hasn't been available even for practice for long stretches.
Yeah.
He played 36 snaps. In his career, he played 25 in one game. He played 10 in another. And other than that, he's never played more than 7 defensive snaps. And again, Vrabel kind of talked about that today. He's just been available. So, they cut Bradley McDougald.
Well, no, let's keep it real, Mickey. What part you're missing here is they benched McDougald and put Gritche out there.
Yeah.
And they can say that all they want to, but that's what happened.
Yep.
Oh, we used a different pack. No, you took him out after he got beat by Lockett. Lockett beat a lot of people.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Just kind of, and then they cut you. So you went from practice squad to starting to now cut.
In
Welcome
what?
to the NFL.
5 days total? The whole journey took about 5 days. Yeah, it stands for not for long, but they cycled how many safeties through in the preseason.
Yeah, they did.
A lot of different guys came through, and it was all over. They were still standing with Matthias Farley, who they'd signed early in the middle or so of the offseason, and Dane Cruikshank, who had been here. They remained the backups and still are the backups. Here we are and about to play game number 3.
Yeah, which is interesting because, he keeps showing flashes because he is a tremendous athlete.
Yeah.
I think he could play corner in a crunch. He has those kind of skill sets.
Wow.
Yeah, but he can't stay healthy.
Yeah.
So you're rolling the dice when you go cut him into. Is he a starter? No, but is he a solid backup and can play in a crunch? Yeah, I think so. So, it's kind of interesting. They cut him in. What was it, Rush? Who was the
Rush? Yeah, the big guy.
So, that was kind of interesting. And then who did you sign to replace them?
They didn't sign anybody yesterday, but history says this.
They will.
At the time we say goodbye today, they will announce whoever they've signed because that happens about 45 seconds, it seems like, after we leave the air every day.
Well, they might have told McDougald. I don't know how it ended for them. And besides the play, we saw him get beat deep. But, just with Cruikshank's history, you can't feel comfortable as a coach thinking he's going to be that part-time guy or the potential starter now until Hooker comes back. And think that the guy behind him better be ready to go. So, yeah, because his 4-year history is pretty up and down. Up 1 week, down the next 3 weeks. And it's all about availability. So we'll see. It's probably the last year of his contract, too, basically. Was he a 4th-round pick or so?
Yeah, this is year 4.
But he's got some talent to him. It's just, you get frustrated as a coach. It's like Darrington Evans. If you go 4 years in and then you miss 4 games next year, all right, or you do something else, strain another hammy or whatever,
right,
your tricep or whatever. And then the next year, you're going in your 4th year and you're a 3rd-round pick, you go, well, dang, man, how much is this guy available? That's like putting him out there. You're going to be our guy now.
Yeah.
You're going to be our guy. Henry's gone. I don't think so.
Dane Cruikshank played 12 games, 16 games. Last year, he only played 2. So he's already matched his play of last year. He's played 2 this year. He played 2 games all of last year. And it would have to be in the final year of his contract as well.
Well, back in my era, let me just say this before we go to break. I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now because I would have been cut out the league if that was going on to my career.
Yeah.
I would have been gone. What? You're not available?
That new paycheck's not available.
B stands for by Blaine. It's a different era, man. 4th year. Oh, yeah. What? How did you make it this long? Yeah. Different times.
Different times. We got a little bit more time. Actually, we got a whole nother hour. When we come back, Jordan Dajani will join us in about 25 minutes with all the latest NFL headlines. Also, you'll never guess what we're going to tell you about next. Another honor for Derrick Henry. Yep, he's got another one. He's going to have to build another trophy case. We'll be right back. Blaine and Mickey.
Listening to Buck Rising will give you all the info you need on the Titans. And if you feel his opinion is wrong, he has a built-in excuse.
It's because I'm wearing like long shorts today. My shorts come down to my knees. It's affecting my judgment. I can't be doing this.
The Buck Rising Show. Tomorrow from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Penzica said that I was done with my work week. Lucas Penzica.
Lucas? How'd you bring Lucas into this?
I don't know. I'm just blame Lucas. Hashtag blame Lucas.
Oh, man.
Their bosses will understand. Just say my name. Just tell them Lucas sent you.
So Derrick Henry just did Derrick Henry things, and Austin Stanley from A to Z Sports joined us earlier this week, and he had tweeted us. We were doing the post-game show on Sunday night, and we're just talking about Derrick Henry getting 182 yards. Like, yeah, he got 182 this game, and, we're just talking about it like you'd say, yeah, it rained yesterday, but maybe it won't rain anymore today. And this is a human being in the NFL who just run for 182 yards, who had played a career high in snaps, who had a career high in carries, and who had a career high in catches. And we're just talking about him like, well, we expect this because this is Derrick Henry. This is just what he does. Well, Derrick Henry, again, 182 yards, 3 TDs again on a career high 35 carries. He had a career high 6 receptions for 55 yards. He played 67 snaps, which again was the most he'd ever played. He became the 4th player in NFL history with 10 career games. And we got into this a little bit on Monday, Blaine, but here's the full stat. He's the 4th player in NFL history with 10 career games where he has 150 rushing yards and 2 rushing TDs. So he's got 10. This is 6th year. So there's a lot more of Derrick Henry, I would imagine, to come down the road. He's got 10. Here's the list.
Well, yeah, I know the list. There's only 2 people ahead of him, right? LT and Jim Brown?
There's a third one,
Who?
Barry Sanders.
Oh.
He's got the same number. Jim Brown has 13. A lot of people think Jim Brown might – it's all subjective. A lot of people think Jim Brown might be the greatest football player who ever lived. He's got 13 of these. Derrick Henry's already got 10. LaDainian Tomlinson has 12. Barry Sanders has 10. Derrick Henry has the same number of those games as Barry Sanders, who a lot of people think might be the greatest running back who ever lived. And this is a huge human being with unbelievable speed and power. He's got 6,100 rushing yards. That's the number that he hit total on Sunday. So here's what I thought I'm going to look up, because we have this discussion a lot when you talk about like Freddie Taylor and we talk about great running backs from the past.
Oh, yeah, I was just talking about him today.
And I know you have that utmost respect for Freddie Taylor.
Another radio show.
And he fits into this, what I was going to tell you.
Okay.
So this is, because we keep talking about running backs, and we always have the question, and we get to like, okay, what's the number then that if you hit that number, that's like getting the key to the Hall of Fame, that you unlock the door? What's that number? Do you know what the number is? We talked about it a lot.
Well, it used to be 10,000. And that, Eddie's just above that. So I thought it was that, but I think there's a lot more tentacles to that. I think, yards per carry, your breakaway ability, long runs, as well as your success with your team.
Yep.
I think there's, so so Fred Taylor, did Fred Taylor get a Super Bowl ring with New England?
Believe he did before he finished. He played in a Super Bowl. I know that. Now,
okay.
Now they lost 2 of them to Eli. He may have played in one of the ones they lost.
But he was I put him up there at the top, like top, almost like number 1. And I don't even know his yardage. I base everything off of what I think I see and how I say how teams approach them and how they try to stop them, how much they impact the actual individual game, even if they don't have statistically those big numbers. Like Derrick Henry's impacting the game even when he has a 60-yard game. 60 yards. Oh, but he carried the ball 20 times.
Right.
Well, he impacted the game. He opened the door for Tannehill. And so, and that's why I gave, and this shows you how the league views this team. They think Derrick Henry is the key. Mm-hmm. Well, in this game, I thought Tannehill was the key. I disagree with this whole, nothing to take away from Henry. He did a heck of a job, and he showed who he was. But Tannehill opened up the key this game because he was able to throw the ball, and then Henry was able to run the ball.
Yep.
Yeah, but if you go look at and by the way, Tannehill threw for 347.
Sure did.
Yeah, so it was, but Henry, he had, 3 TDs or whatever, and 180.
3 TDs, yeah, over 200.
35 carries, 6 catches. I mean, man, those are unbelievable stats in the NFL when you're just one guy. And, it's funny because my expectations are I'm getting so comfortable that doesn't surprise me what he just did.
Right.
And that's horrible for me to even say it.
But we're also used to it.
Yeah. So I think that kind of hurts maybe my viewpoint. To be honest, I mean, that is unbelievable out there what he's doing. I mean, and I'm going to say this. He just does not look like he's going to slow down. And it could happen actually in the middle of the season, at the end of the season. It could never happen until 2 years from now.
Right.
Because you always just think it's got to happen at some point. For whatever reason, I believe it's not here in the next year or two. I just don't.
So he's as Blaine alluded to, he's the AFC Offensive Player of the Week. He's won it again, Derrick Henry. Here's the Hall of Fame stat that's interesting.
That you said that gets you into the Hall of Fame.
This is going to get you. The number that no one with 12,000 yards or more rushing is not in the Hall of Fame. Everybody with 12,000 or more, except for Frank Gore and Adrian Peterson, and they will be in soon enough. They'll both go in.
Oh, I remember I had a huge discussion about Frank Gore that he is going to get in. Because you could say he was on horrible teams or not. He rushed for over 12,000 yards. I'm sorry.
He's at 16,000 even is where Frank is.
Yeah, I mean, that's hard. I mean, longevity is part of.
Has to be. In baseball, it counts. In baseball, you'll get in for longevity.
It has to count. We see Ezekiel Elliott. You see him?
Yep.
He just looks like a good, solid running back now.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So that will be, if those guys get in, and they will, that will be 16 people who have 12,000 or more rushing yards. So Derrick Henry is more than halfway there. He's got 6,100. The first guy with the highest total who is not in the Hall of Fame is Fred Taylor.
How many yards did Fred
He has the highest total to not be in the Hall of Fame, 11,695. He is not in. Everybody,
he almost got to it.
Everybody above him is in or will be in. Freddie T.
Yeah. And Fred probably doesn't even know that I just felt like he was one of the better backs that I faced because he's still probably perturbed about the losses. But, hey, man, Freddie T was there in my mind. Besides maybe him pulling muscles, there was nothing that he wasn't exceptional at.
Yeah.
Blocking, running, breakaway ability, catching. There was nothing that he couldn't do. Everybody has a notch on them like, they're just good at this. Even in the Hall of Fame, they were solid. They weren't great at it. Well, there's nothing to me that he wasn't great at playing running back. At least the times I faced him and the times I watched the film.
You said he would also whack you when he was blocking, like pass blocking. He would come after you.
His blocking.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. He hit me one time. I said, oh, he tried to actually hurt me.
Yeah.
He hit me in my ear. I think that thing is still ringing. I mean, he did. I was like, oh, he tried to bamboozle me. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And actually, it made like a real talk, made like a tear come to my eye. Mm-hmm. It hurt that bad. And I gritted my mouth with my mouthpiece and looked at him like, payback is going to be a mofo.
Did you get him?
Oh, did I?
Oh, okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, if you want me to put a video out there, I tried to annihilate him. At the same time, I think I knocked myself out, but I refused to come out.
I'll be waiting for that video.
When I talk about this word called uncoil,
okay,
this is what people are like, man, what were you doing there? I said I uncoiled on them. They never asked me what that means. And that means I literally exploded into him like I was trying to run through him.
Whoa.
And it shows on this tape. And that was in the AFC Championship game. And actually, Mike Jones was helping me up because I sat down on one of our players after I hit him. Like I didn't wrap up or anything. Right. It was like mano a mano. We going down this tunnel, and we want to see who's going to say chicken and move to the other way. And I was not. And he was not. But he went backwards. And I went on my butt. But I didn't fall.
Okay.
I fell over somebody's feet. I mean, I got tangled up, but
right.
I uncoiled. I unleashed the Hitman bomb.
Okay. Well, we're going to be looking for that video at BBishop23 on Twitter. We'll help you find that.
It's already on my Instagram before from last year when they played Jaguars. I posted it. Yeah, a lot of Jaguars players and fans were pissed. Talking about, we're going to relive this. Like, yeah, I was just showing you the hit, bro.
You know what Derrick Henry's on pace for this year? Just curious. Through 2 games, only 2 games.
He's averaging 120 a game.
You know what
I can do math. So
you know what that's on pace for?
I would guess around 1,800.
2040, 2,040 yards in 17 games. 2,040 yards in 17 games.
I still believe if he gets 15, 16, that's still a heck of a run.
Yeah, nobody's ever done it after 2K. Yeah. Most guys have fallen off a cliff.
I'm saying 15, 16 because they got another game. They have, 17 games. So man, he's an impressive individual, and he's a freak of nature. I mean,
he's both of those things.
Yeah, I don't know if maybe he's the Jim Brown of this era. I didn't ever see Jim Brown. That was before my time. But I know you were alive.
He did retire. He did retire before I was born. But you know me, I'm a history student of NFL football. I've watched a lot of tape on Jim Brown. Yeah. He was bigger. Jim Brown was
the Pruitt brothers.
Jim Brown was a modern football player for now, playing in the 60s, in the 50s and 60s. He looked like a guy from now playing in the 50s and 60s. He was the biggest, baddest, strongest, fastest cat, and he just destroyed people. He rushed for over 18.
Every time I watch his highlight, I think he rushed for what?
1,864, I believe, but that was in
how many games?
They were playing, I believe, 14 at that point.
Yeah. Every time I see the highlights, I think of, was he then what Bo Jackson was? Granted, his career was shorter, but like the size, speed,
yes,
power element, it just looks like it.
And is also like a Hall of Fame level lacrosse player, Jim Brown. So he was even like Bo in multiple sports.
Yeah. And an actor.
Yeah.
After he finished.
And no doubt. And he quit the NFL at the top of his game to go to Hollywood. All right, we got to quit this segment at the top of its game because Jordan Dajani is going to join us next to talk NFL football. It's Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
J. Martin Ramone, you're part of the fam just for listening.
This is without a doubt the best show on radio. You guys have effectively basically brought us closer to you guys, but brought the listeners close to each other. It's beautiful, man.
J. Martin Ramone, tomorrow morning starting at 6 on 104.5 The Zone.
Join
And then he probably made me cry in that game when he ear-holed me.
Let's put it this way. Everything stopped. You can hear the announcer go, "Ugh!" And it sounds like Greg Gumbel, and you can hear him literally groan when you hit him. And he is like flat on his back, and you are on your butt just sitting sort of on the pile.
Yeah, sit on somebody.
And you said Greg Jones kind of grabbed your arm and was like, okay.
No, Mike Jones.
Mike Jones.
Yeah,
Greg Jones, I went to elementary school with. Yes, yeah. Mike Jones.
He grabbed me because he could see in my eyes. They probably would roll up in the back of my head because I lost where I was at.
I don't know if Fred T knew where he was after that either, to be honest with you. That was a whack. Jordan Dajani joins us right now. We know where he is. Heck, he's a Nashville guy. CBS Sports. Jordan, have you ever seen the uncoiling of the hitman on Fred Taylor, or do you remember that play from the AFC Championship?
He remembers McNair ready.
Hey, what's going on, guys? Thanks for having me on. So I just saw it on Twitter, and I was getting ready to pull up the link before the producer called. So as soon as I get off this radio hit, I'm definitely going to view it.
Well, it's worth your time. We've been watching on a loop. Well, Blaine was doing commercials. I was watching
Fred
it on.
Taylor mad at me again.
I know. Here we go.
He's gonna come
at
me
again.
Yeah, he's gonna tell me to come on his podcast so he can rip me. Like I remember when I ran you over.
Well, you got him back there, and you can always point at the scoreboard too from that game. So Jordan Dajani, our guest, joins us this time every week. Hey, man, did your ulcer medicine work for you on Sunday as the Titans somehow, in a miracle, went to, well, Kansas City or Seattle, maybe the two toughest places to play? They went to one of those places, and they won in the most improbable of fashions.
Oh, man. Yeah, you bring up the word improbable. I think it was improbable in so many different uses of the word. I mean, in a hostile environment against a high-flying NFC West team that hadn't lost a home opener in 11 or 12 years, down double digits entering the third quarter, and the way the Titans orchestrate their comeback is on the legs and shoulders of Derrick Henry. I mean, you don't see that when you see a road team pull off a comeback victory like the Titans did. And man, you know, you can't take away anything from what this Tennessee did and the heart that they showed on the field Sunday in Seattle. But at the same time, I do feel like the Seahawks kind of lifted their foot up the gas just a little bit in the second half. They couldn't get the ground game going to help run down the clock. The defense let up in the second half. The passing attack did not look the same as it did in the first half, apart from a Freddie Swain 68-yard touchdown. This Tennessee Titans team, I mean, this could be a huge win moving forward that could propel them momentum-wise into the regular season.
Were you impressed with the overall officiating in that game?
No, I can't say that I was. Not very much. There were some questionable penalty flags, and I definitely thought Julio Jones caught a touchdown as well just before the halftime break. Not sure what the refs were looking at in reviewing that. Maybe they were focused on one part of the foot as opposed to the foot in general. I don't know. I was trying to do mental gymnastics with myself to try to see exactly what they were seeing. But, yeah, overall it was pretty confusing on Sunday.
Yeah, between the missed first down, between the Julio thing, which the Titans have a picture where you can see green between Julio's heel, the safety that wasn't a safety. It's hard to pick which one was the most egregious. We had Coach Mack on yesterday, and he was like, I was looking at the coaches. They were in the room next door. I'm signaling safety to them, and then all of a sudden they just decided it was a sack.
I mean, yeah, it was unbelievable. There were so many calls that were questionable, and I thought there were some big calls as well. But, man, officiating has definitely been a hot topic through the first 2 weeks of the NFL season, especially when it comes to the whole taunting rule. And I'm sure it's going to be something we discuss moving forward.
Yeah, absolutely. And we'll always discuss it. Again, same bat time, same bat channel. Jordan Dajani of CBS Sports here on Blaine and Mickey.
Well, Jordan, I want to move on now that game is over. Now that they won, we can go into details on all about that. But I want to know a little bit about Carson Wentz and what he looked like at least these first 2 weeks. I didn't think he played really bad. I thought he was solid. I know he gave the shovel pass before he got injured. He probably won't play. And then kind of take us through, what do you think Eason, and the coaching staff and Reich will call for him based off what he did in the preseason? Because I thought he looked better than people are giving him credit for it in the preseason. For what it's worth, he got a lot of reps, and now he'll be the starter in all of week and be prepared and can go out there and perform at least enough to get the job done.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I remember sitting down and talking with you about the preseason, and the Colts quarterbacks was kind of an interesting storyline during the exhibition season. Jacob Eason looked pretty good, so it'll be interesting to see what he can do and what it's going to be his first professional action. That is, if he does start on Sunday. Now, as for Carson Wentz, I did watch that Rams-Colts game on Sunday. As someone who had Rams -3.5, I was pretty nauseous throughout the entire matchup. But yeah, Carson Wentz played a little bit better. I mean, he went 20 of 31, 247 yards, touchdown. You brought up the shovel pass interception. He looked a little better. I thought he played well off of his playmakers better in week 2. I mean, Jonathan Taylor only had 51 yards on the ground, but, I mean, we know that he's a playmaker that the Colts want to center their offense around. Then Michael Pittman Jr. had somewhat of a breakout game. He had 8 catches for 123 yards. He's a budding star in this league and a prospect that many tabbed as someone who is going to take a leap forward here in 2021. So he could be kind of a matchup misadvantage for the Titans secondary. That is if Wentz is playing or if Jacob Eason can uncork the deep ball. But, man, when you watch the Colts, it really came down to those red zone turnovers. They had 2 in, the first half where they weren't able to get the job done. And they had another red zone possession in the second half that was aided by a Kenny Young personal foul and what turned into an ejection. So this Colts team, I mean, they definitely have their question marks. They're 0-2 for a reason. They have question marks in the secondary especially. I mean, Matthew Stafford got whatever he wanted against this defense. So did Russell Wilson in week 1. I think that's what the Titans have to look for as they enter this matchup is what they can do to build on Julio Jones' big game last Sunday.
Well, I'm looking at the stats. You tell me defensively for the Colts, I just don't see, Darius Leonard and Buckner. The numbers aren't standing out to me. So what's going on with their defense? Is it just that the opponent they played throw the ball more?
Yes, it's that, but it's also schematically, I think that they try to spread the field out a little bit because that kind of limits the impact Darius Leonard can have on the game if he's going to be playing in the box. And you're also going to do that because, if you spread the ball out, especially if you come out in the spread formation kind of look, then you're going to limit the time that the defensive front four has to get to the quarterback as well. But all in all, you're lining up like that and you're taking these shots down the field and trying to get the ball to receivers as quickly as possible because in my mind, the Colts secondary is the weakness on this team. So if you want to win games and score points against this defense, that's how you're going to do it.
Well, naturally, my favorite player, Aaron Rodgers, had something to say. He was talking to you, I think, Jordan, too, man, when he said, you guys are trolling me, and I told you to just slow down and because I didn't practice and I held out and all that. Well, what'd you think now? So you can hold back for a week.
Yeah, he looks great. I don't remember what I said on the show last week, but I thought I did a good job of holding back. Yeah, I think we all knew that week 1 was going to be a throwaway game for this Packers team, and they did start slow against the Lions, and in the first half, it really looked like Jared Goff was slinging it around. But they were able to get together, come together, take another look at what the defense was giving them at the halftime break, and they were able to key in on some advantages they had on offense. One specifically being what Aaron Jones did in the receiving game. They played a lot of man on him, especially with linebackers, namely Jamie Collins, who struggled against him. So they got the ball out to Aaron Jones a lot in the passing game, and sure enough, he scored 3 touchdowns. So this Packers offense obviously has, elite potential. We already understand that. But this was also a big win, just like for the Tennessee Titans. Moving forward now into week 3, which team is going to show up, and it's going to be the one, in my mind, that had offensive success. The 49ers are definitely a really good defensive team, but Aaron Rodgers seems like he has this team as a whole on the right track.
And lastly for me, Jordan, we're on with Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports, and that is, are the Raiders for real?
I'm glad you brought this up. The Raiders have been one of my favorite teams to watch so far. And, they over the past couple of years, they've experienced inconsistency on both sides of the ball, really, especially on defense. But they got a new defensive coordinator in there who I think is getting the most out of his talent. They have 2 of my favorite defensive players in the league to watch, in pass rusher Max Crosby and then also strong safety Jonathan Abram, who's one of the hardest-hitting guys in the league, in my opinion. And I love how aggressive he is around the ball, even if it sometimes he ends up getting stiff-armed by Najee Harris off the sideline. But, I mean, this Raiders defense is better than they were last year, and this offense is clicking as well. Henry Ruggs is finally getting his touches. We know that Darren Waller is one of the best players at tight end in the league. And Derek Carr has that potential. When he's working the scheme and when he's finding a rhythm with himself, he's one of the better quarterbacks in the NFL. And I think the offensive line has been doing an okay job at keeping him protected as well. But we've seen this before. The Raiders have started off hot in years past and then have faded as the season goes on. But I'm starting to think that there is something different about this team, that hopefully some of the coaching changes they made and some of the moments where they have where they come together and kind of reevaluate the schedule and what they want to do offensively and defensively. They added some playmakers on both sides of the ball. This Raiders team, I don't think they have contender status in them, but they can beat any team on any given Sunday.
With Jordan Dajani, NFL writer for CBS Sports.
All right, Jordan, I had a Raiders question too. Blaine got that out, but here's the second half of my question that I had written down involving the Raiders. So only two teams in the whole AFC are undefeated. It's the Raiders and the Broncos. That's the only two AFC teams that are hey, man, if you had that in your office pool, that they'd be the last two undefeated, not the Chiefs, not the Ravens. Pretty amazing. Which one of those teams do you like best to be a playoff team at the end of the year? Because I'll say this, there were a bunch of people that were on the Broncos hype train before the year. I didn't necessarily believe that, but at least real nice start for them so far.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing that these are the two undefeated teams in the AFC, and they reside in the toughest AFC division in my mind. It's funny that the Chiefs are currently sitting tied for third/fourth place behind these Raiders and Broncos teams. But you know what? I think the Raiders have played a tougher schedule than the Broncos up to this point. The Broncos played the Giants, and then they just played the Jacksonville Jaguars. Those were kind of gimmies. And I don't know what kind of deal they made with the NFL schedule makers, but they played the Jets now this week, so they're going to move to 3-0. But, if you ask me that question, my answer, honestly, I'm leaning towards the Denver Broncos. And I got to admit, I was questioning the decision to roll with Teddy Bridgewater over Drew Lock because I thought it significantly handicapped their offense in terms of its ability to go down the field. But I always admitted that this Broncos team could be a playoff team if they just worked off of their playmakers. And I think they've done a really good job with that through 2 weeks. Teddy Bridgewater is not a bad quarterback. We know that. He's just not a guy who's going to light up the box score for 400 yards and 4 touchdowns. Also, they have a great running back duo, Javonte Williams, Melvin Gordon, a very good offensive line. I already mentioned the wide receivers, but this defense has the potential to be one of the better ones in the NFL as well, especially when it comes to their safety duo and their cornerbacks as well. So that's why I have to lean towards the Broncos when it comes to these two AFC West teams who look like they have dynamic potential moving forward.
Jordan Dajani, our guest. Imagine a world where you're the Houston Texans and you have one of the top 5 quarterbacks in the league, and things are just so out of sorts legally in every which way with this guy that you're going to start Davis Mills on Sunday and not even consider Deshaun Watson. Are we any closer to any kind of a resolution to this in any possible way?
So to answer your question, no, I don't think we are closer. But at the same time, I don't have, my thumb on the beat of this story. And, all we know is what we can go off that's being reported. And to be honest with you, we haven't seen anything major reported along the lines of this story in months, many months. So we really don't know. We're kind of sitting here wondering, is Deshaun Watson refusing to play? Are they waiting for a really good trade offer? Are they waiting for the NFL to hand down a punishment? We just don't know. But, I don't know when the next development's going to come in this story as well. I almost wonder if everyone's kind of waiting for the NFL to complete their investigation. But then we can dive into what exactly does completing an investigation mean, because the NFL would look really dumb if they jump the gun and hand down what's a 6 or 10 game suspension, and then all of a sudden Deshaun Watson, is indicted on charges and has to go to court. So I don't know what necessarily we're waiting on when it comes to this. All we really know is that Deshaun Watson is not going to play for the Texans moving forward.
Man, what a mess. Jordan Dajani joining us here on Blaine and Mickey talking all things NFL.
Well, since we're talking about quarterbacks, did Jameis Winston become Jameis Winston again?
Yeah. Man, I'm the biggest Jameis Winston apologist in the world, and I was so happy after that Week 1 win over the Packers. But I knew that he wasn't going to be throwing 5 touchdowns every single game for 17 games. But when I watched the film on this Panthers game, I think it's a lot similar to what we watched with the Packers in week 1. This is a throwaway game on both sides of the ball because the Saints had to deal with having half of their offensive coaches out due to COVID. They dealt with a minor COVID outbreak. This is the second straight week they've been on the road without being home because of the difficulties that are going on in New Orleans. The Saints also had their top 2 cornerbacks out due to injury. And to make matters worse, they didn't have McCoy on the offensive line, which if you watch the film really led to some discombobulation when it came to not only run blocking, but especially pass blocking and keeping Jameis Winston upright. It looked like the Saints kind of put the game plan on Jameis Winston's shoulders, which is something you don't want to do when he's playing his second game in this new system with Sean Payton, and half of his offensive coaching staff is not even present at the stadium to help him with the defensive looks that he's looking at. Now, I want to bring something else up. I don't know how many people know this, but the Carolina Panthers currently, after 2 games, have the number 1 defense in the NFL. So you got to give them credit as well. But no, I'm not. I don't. I look at that as a throwaway performance for Jameis Winston and the Saints as a whole. Hopefully, they can get back on the right track against Bill Belichick and the Patriots. But we'll see. It was an interesting game, but I didn't learn too much from that.
Good point there about the defense. Naturally, there's a lot of quarterbacks already beat up and may miss this game. I mean, we got the Titans playing, probably won't play Wentz. You got Tyrod Taylor. Big Ben is banged up. Dalton or Fields. I mean, I don't know who's playing. Of all those quarterbacks that are banged up, which team is going to miss their quarterback the most if they don't play?
Yeah, that's a good question. And, yeah, it'll be interesting to see Justin Fields start on Sunday because he's going to against the Browns. But for the team that's going to miss their quarterback the most, I'm leaning towards the Miami Dolphins and Tua Tagovailoa. And this is such a tough story because it's a rib injury. He's not going to miss the whole season or anything. But when he came into the league, he obviously was dealing with health issues and also had the red flag of, can this guy play through injuries and stay healthy through the rigors of a long NFL season? And I don't think we've been able to see that from Tua just yet, which is why I'm starting to wonder, is he really going to be the franchise quarterback for this team in 3 or 4 years? Now, I think he has the talent to be that guy, but he has to stay healthy and take these regular season reps for him to truly develop. And sure enough, he can't get through 2 weeks without getting cracked on his right side and breaking those ribs. So the Dolphins, they're a team similar to what I was talking about with the Broncos, where they're not going to put the game completely on their quarterback. They're going to try to work off of their playmakers. That's what they added in free agency. They like the running backs they have as well. So this Dolphins team, they're really hampered by having to start Jacoby Brissett now.
Jordan, thanks for the time today, man. Always love catching up with you. And the NFL season is here. It's fun talking about it every week. The ratings are huge for games. I mean, it just never stops, that NFL juggernaut. Love discussing it with you. People can check you out on Twitter at Jordan Dajani or at CBS Sports. Thanks for the time today, bud.
Appreciate it, Jordan.
Absolutely. Thank you, guys.
Peace.
All right, we'll let Jordan go. When we come back, Ryan Tannehill talking about this week's AFC Offensive Player of the Week, Derrick Henry. We've got that. We also have this, A.J. Brown talking about drops. Yep, that's next. Blaine and Mickey, 104.5 The Zone.
It's the 2 best teams in the AFC South as the Titans and Colts go at it from Nissan Stadium with early positioning in the division on the line.
It's going to be a good test.
Coverage starts Sunday morning at 9. Then the kickoff at noon on your home for Titans football. 104.5 The Zone.
interesting. 3 touchdowns on a career-high 35 carries and had a career-high 6 receptions for 55 yards on a career-high 67 snaps. Anytime you think, I can't do any more than that, well, then he just goes and does more than that. It's just amazing. His quarterback got asked some questions about him today. I mean, he's the one who hands the ball to him every time and then gets a front row seat to all these exploits. It's what Ryan Tannehill said about Derrick Henry.
No, I don't think there's any amazement. I think he's proven what he could do, and he goes out and does it. I think that it's awesome to see what he can do, but I don't think there's any amazement. I think that, like I said, he's shown what he can do. He's tough. He's physical. He is durable, and he makes big plays. So excited to see him. When you see him kind of round the corner and one-on-one with a DB, that's when the blood starts pumping. To get excited, knowing that he can make that guy miss, stiff arm, outrun him, whatever it may be, find a way to get around him and go for the long run. So when that happened in the game, I turned around, handed it off, set up, and saw him kind of round in the corner, gaining speed with one defender coming in, and knew it could be a big one.
What does it say about his
Ryan Tannehill talking about Derrick Henry today. The question was, are you amazed about what he does? That's why he said, no, I'm not amazed. I don't think any of us are amazed anymore, and that's the amazing part is he has made superhuman stuff he has made it look routine. He has made superhuman accomplishments to me look routine. Yeah, I'm just going to outrun people. Yeah, I'll just stiff arm people. I mean, he's averaging 120 yards a game, which puts him on pace for 2,000 again this season. He just rushed for 2,000. I saw a tweet yesterday from the Titans. I think he's third all-time in touchdown scoring, and he could break the record this year in his 6th year. Guy scores a lot of touchdowns. He had 3 more on Sunday, Blaine, but interesting hearing his quarterback say, I'm not even amazed anymore at what I see him do.
Yeah, because they know he's not human.
Right.
Yeah, he's from, cyborg from somewhere else, and they're used to seeing this cyborg. That's who he is. I mean, yeah, man, I know it's up to TV. I would not be trying to get in the foot race with this kid, man. I just dive early and just I missed him.
Right. Hey, man, I took my shot. Yeah.
Man, it's unbelievable. I love that feeling just to watch and see him take off that Tannehill has in the offensive line, and once he gets past them and takes off, you start running down cheering.
Yeah,
because you know what's happening. It's about to happen. That guy has no shot in heck to tackle him. No DB. I don't care. Hall of Fame type player. I don't care who it is. They're going to get straight arm, run over, or run by. That's it. And it's going to happen.
That's your options. A.J. Brown, I promised we'd play this as well. He was interviewed on the fence line, so not on the podium, but the press got to talk to him today. Jim White actually had this audio, so credit to Jim White for getting this. He got asked about the drops. This is what A.J. Brown said.
I kind of give myself, something happened in my life, I give myself 48 hours to, pout or whatever, and after then I move on from it. But that's not the case here. This is football. This is something I do every day. That's not going to be the last time I drop past, but definitely going to continue that. It was just me trying to make a move before I caught the ball. And then after that, it was a domino effect. I kind of let it get in my head and just kept going. So most definitely, I wish I could play today. It's been a long couple of days for me, but it's a part of it. It's a process, and, it's ups and downs. So,
A.J. Brown on the drops that he had. Tannehill might have had 400 yards passing. If not, that might have put him over 400 yards, that particular play right there. The long pass to A.J. that was dropped. There were a couple
all
others
the ones,
as well.
that's the one that the other one's okay, but I couldn't live with that one there. That drop there because he was already making his move before he got it because he knew he was thinking about scoring.
Yeah.
Got to make him. Got to will him in. A little rusty.
He'll get it, though. I'm not worried about him figuring things out.
Oh, no. But that's because he's done it before. Yeah, but if he hadn't, he'd be up there, right now like with McDougal.
McDougal is bye-bye. The Dane Cruikshank era has